Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on European Confessions. The following story that you're going to be listening to, it was sent to me by one of our dear sister, and this is the translation of that message that she sent to me. The translation of that message, it reads like this. Hello, Brother Nashi, how are you? Can you please post my own story as hidden identity? I want to confess to you that I have this other best friend of mine, and her child passed away when the child was only 3 months. And the reason as to why that child passed away, it was because of me, because there were these other charms that I had been given by my own mother. So these charms, I wanted to use them so that my boss can favor me, because I was working with my best friend. So the situation at work was like this. Our boss had not yet decided, because we were both working as casual workers. So he said that between the two of you, there is one who is going to be a permanent worker, then one I am going to lay that person off, because I cannot afford to have two casual workers. It is far much better that I have one permanent worker. So because he could not decide in time, I then spoke with my friend and I said, like, you have recently given birth and you continue going to work. Why don't you just stop going to work so that you can take care of your child? And beside, you and your husband, you are quite very young. You do not need a lot of money. But look at me. I have kids that are back home. Me and my husband, we are still building back home. We need that money. I am really desperate. Please, can you just give me this chance? You are still very young. You are still going to find another job one day. But she then refused, and she said that simply because she was working, she was able to buy some baby wear for her own child without asking for any money from her own husband. So this made me to be very angry. So this young couple, they came to the place where we were staying. That is how I became friends with her, and we will do whatever that we would do together. So I then took those charms. There was this other day when our boss called us. So when we went to work, I had this money that I had because I just wanted to buy some nice food for her so that I can just sprinkle the charms into that food before I would have given her. When we arrived at work, our boss then told us that he wanted us to go and to work at his place. So we then got into the car. We then went to his house. So our boss, he just stays opposite this other mall. So at lunch, I then told my young friend that I just wanted to go and buy something at the shops. So I then went to the mall. I left her as she was playing with her child. When I arrived at the mall, I then bought some food and I bought a pie for her. As for me, I bought a normal pie, and as for my friend, I then bought a burger for her. And after I had done this, I then took those charms and I sprinkled the charms into that pie. And this pie, I bought it from King Pie. And when I arrived back at work, I never expected my friend to feed her baby, because the baby was only 3 months. So I never expected her to feed this 3 months baby with the pie that I had bought for her. So I took the pie that I had bought for myself and then I started to eat. But my brother, then I saw my friend, she was busy feeding her baby with that pie that I had sprinkled the charms on it, and I could not stop her because I was scared. I was scared that if I tell her that there were some charms that I had used on her, then she was going to call me a witch. So I just kept quiet and I said, I don't know, maybe something bad is going to happen. Maybe the baby is not going to get affected. I'll just see. It was more like an experiment that I had done. So we continued working. Then our boss then told my friend to stop coming to work because he had chosen me to become the permanent worker. I was really happy, but then tragedy struck, because she then told me that her child was really sick. I then called my mom and I told my mom the mistake that I had done. I told my mom that I had taken those charms and I had placed those charms into that pie that I had given to my young friend, and unfortunately she had fed that same pie to her 3 month and she had fed that same pie to her 3 months child. And I wanted to know if my mom could reverse this curse that her charms had placed on my friend, because I did not want a child to suffer. And my mom then told me that she was going to see what she was going to do. But it then happened that my child's friend then passed away. When my child friend passed away, it was because of my mom. My mom then told me that she was going to go to the graves and she was going to call upon the spirits of the dead. And after I had spoken with my mom, that was when this young couple came to me and told me that they wanted me to accompany them to this other prophet. And as for that prophet, the only disadvantage with him is that he is someone who loves women a lot, but he is someone that has a gift of prophecy. I felt my heart beating really fast against my chest after this young couple had came into my room asking me to accompany them to that prophet. And I then told the husband, and I said, you know that there was this other day when they were busy chasing him with long knives, because this man, he had been sending some love messages to this other woman who had came to him for assistance. And this man, this is what he always did. Whenever a woman would come to consult with him, then he would propose love to that woman. So at that time, the husband then got to find out about this thing that was happening between his wife and that prophet. So he then went and he started to fight with that prophet. When I reminded this couple about what this prophet had done and how he had been chased around by some people in the community because he kept on sleeping with other people's wives, then the husband said, no, we are not going to do that. And I kept on speaking with my mom. I kept on telling my mom to do something on her side. So my mom went into a consulting room. She then started to call upon some evil spirits to fly from Zim and to come to South Africa. So then those spirits flew from Zim and they came to South Africa. We then went to this other prophet. But this prophet, what she did not know was that when she thought that she was prophesying using the Holy Spirit, she was actually prophesying using that evil spirit that had been sent by my mom from Zim, and it flew to South Africa. And she started to tell this young couple some things that were just unnecessary, and she avoided the truth of the matter, that I was the one who was making this child to be really sick. My brother, this young child died in my room, the room that me and my husband are staying in. When this couple brought in their child into my room, it was because they were confused. They didn't know what to do anymore, and the prophet had told them lies, and they kept on saying that their child was getting really weak because this child had not eaten anything for a very long time, and the child could no longer breastfeed anymore. As I was holding this child, I kept on looking at this child, and I felt as if this child was accusing me, because the baby kept on looking at me as if it knew that I was the one who was about to end its own life. As I was holding this baby, I felt so much guilt in my heart, but there was nothing that I could do about it. That was when I remembered that when we were still growing up at our home, since my mom was a traditional healer, there were a lot of women that used to bring their newborn babies, because like when a baby is still very young, according to our culture in Zim, there is that soft spot on top of a child's head where it is always bouncing up and down. So in Shona we call it Nova. So this Nova sometimes can make a baby to get sick. So I thought that maybe this is what was making this baby to go sick. So I then took some salt, then I inserted my finger into the baby's mouth. Then I started to perform this ritual, which in Shona it is called Kukwesha Nova, whereby you will be rubbing this salt on inside the child's mouth, curing this illness that will be making this child to get really sick. So I thought that I was actually helping, but this child, my brother, I then saw that this child just passed away because the child was really sick. So I spoke with my mom, and my mom knew everything that had happened. Then I told them to call an ambulance. So they did. They called an ambulance. When this ambulance came, those guys that looked at the baby, I then told this couple to call an ambulance. So they did. After they had called the ambulance, those paramedics, they even took the baby, and when they looked at the baby was breathing, but the baby in reality was no longer breathing. It was because of the spirit that my mom had sent. That spirit was making these paramedics to think that the baby was still alive, because my mom did not want me to get arrested. The baby had died whilst I was performing that ritual. So when the ambulance took this baby to the hospital, when the baby arrived at the hospital, that was when I received a phone call that the baby had passed away. So, Brother Nashi, this is what happened. Yes, indeed, I feel really bad about the things that I did, but there is nothing that I can do about it. It was a simple mistake. It was an honest mistake that I made. And if I could turn back the hands of time, yes, I would try to do that so that this baby can return back to life. But unfortunately, I am not God, and I cannot give life to someone that has died. Dear listeners, right there was a message that was sent to me by one of our sister right there that was here on confession. Strange things do happen in this world.